Today on Hammer Time, the plaintiff, representing France, Pierre Bruno, the oppressor, who dissolved by decree IUIC from teaching on the streets. They claim IUIC is a hate group and have banned them. This is a defendant, IUIC, who is here to uphold their stance that they are not a hate group, represented by Jacob Israel. He will prove that IUIC is an organization for the people and is against the oppressor. All rise. Court is now in session. Presiding, the Honorable Judge Deacon the Hammer. Please.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Bueno. Good morning, Israel. We have a good case this morning. I'm hoping that you'll both respect each other. You give him a chance to speak. He give you a chance to speak, so we can have something solid here today.
Your Honor, how can you let the men of the IUIC teach on the streets of France?
Paris is one of the worst places to visit. Considering it's the most romanticized city in the world, this may be hard to believe. I mean, anytime you see a photo or video of the city, it looks breathtaking, right? Well, Paris is actually dirtier than New York City. There's garbage literally everywhere, which in turn makes the entire place smell like urine according to most tourists.
They promote nothing but violence and hatred against our people. They do not have the love of the John 3:16. They do not have understanding to Galatians 3:28.
Yeah, man, first of all, Your Honor, how you doing this morning? The French don't have no right to even talk about no violence.
Emmanuel Macron has been humiliated by his very own wife in front of the eyes of the world. Yes, shocking footage has emerged overnight of the French President Emmanuel Macron being brutally slapped and shoved by his wife and First Lady Brigitte just before disembarking his plane in Vietnam.
The French don't have no right to even open the Bible. The French don't have no right to talk about love. The French don't have no right whatsoever.
1. France admits the unthinkable. We helped erase Black Jews from biblical history. Let us begin with the unspeakable, not because it cannot be said, but because it was never meant to be remembered. France, the nation that crowned itself the cradle of reason, revolution, and human rights, has long stood atop a stage of moral authority. But behind the curtain of liberté, égalité, fraternité was a darker gospel, one soaked in colonial ink and stained with the deliberate suppression of truth. That gospel erased the very people whose presence in the Bible dismantles the myth of whiteness in sacred history, the Black biblical Jews.
But this morning, Your Honor, we got evidence that's going to France today why they need IUIC to teach the gospel to our people in France.
All you got to do is open up your window in the city of Marseille, France. What you gonna hear? Bullets, gang wars, drug wars. That's why France needs purple and gold on those streets to teach repentance to our people.
Marseille is in the clutch of a violent crisis. 2 drug gangs defend their territories at any cost.
Les personnes qui perdent, c'est des soldats, comme ils disent. C'est des civils.
Last year, 49 people were murdered, the highest ever number. In this tale of 2 cities, the narco war in one community is simply survival in the next.
Pas créer un avenir ici. Ça veut dire, voilà, nous on fait ça parce qu'il faut des sous maintenant.
Everyone is on the front line.
What about the mother that lost her son due to police brutalities? Who is she gonna hold that night?
Police secours, je vous écoute. Oui, excusez-moi, pour vous signaler, il y a eu des coups de feu qui ont été tirés. J'ai vu un homme en moto avec un casque descendre de sa moto et tirer. Il y a des blessés? pas du tout là, je vais descendre pour voir, là je vois qu'il commence à y avoir beaucoup de monde. C'est noté, viens voir ça.
The 18th of August, 2021. It's 10 p.m. In front of Les Marronniers, a neighborhood in the north of Marseille, gunshots are heard. 4 bullets. A boy dies on the spot. His name was Ryan. He was 14 years old. A few days later, at his funeral, a large crowd came to pay their respects. His family, still shaken, is torn between grief and shock. Ryan was an ordinary teenager who had never been convicted of a crime. He loved motorbikes and dreamed of becoming an ambulance driver. An innocent life taken by accident in a war between rival gangs, an unbearable thought for his family.
Oui, clairement, c'est ce qu'on veut, nous. C'est que ces gens-là se fassent arrêter et pourrissent en prison. Et excusez-moi, après, je suis une mère, hein, j'étais la tante de Ryan, mais ce que je veux, c'est qu'on leur fasse la misère en prison. Je veux qu'ils payent. Voilà. 1/10 de la souffrance que nous, on ressent. Et c'est pas en les tuant que ça fera ça. Donc non, il faut qu'ils soient arrêtés, ces gens-là.
Ryan has become a symbol. He is the youngest victim of the deadly madness that has struck the city of Marseille this year.
What about what the atrocities they're doing outside of France and Mali?
Guinea and Mali, they chose not to sign the document. That France moved into those countries, poured concrete into the sewage pipes, destroyed schools, hospitals, roads, anything that could be destroyed, they destroyed. Anything that they could pick up and take back with them to France, they took. They even took the last pencil. This was done as a way of letting the other African countries know that should you refuse to sign this document, this was the fate that awaited you.
What about what them devils are doing in Guinea?
In 1958, Guinea was the only French colony to vote no in Charles de Gaulle's referendum on joining the French community. That no vote meant immediate independence, a bold move led by Sékou Touré. France, under de Gaulle and with Foccart managing African affairs, was furious. What followed was a blend of punishment, sabotage, and covert retaliation. In 1960, France commenced Jacques Foccart's key covert operation against Guinea. Operation name: Persil. The operation's name, referencing a popular detergent brand, symbolized the intent to cleanse or undermine the Guinean regime. It symbolized cleaning or whitewashing. In this case, it meant destabilizing Guinea economically and politically. The SDECE French intelligence forged and flooded Guinea with counterfeit Guinean francs to create hyperinflation and economic panic, funded internal opposition and backed small insurgent groups, supported regional destabilization, encouraging neighbors to distance themselves from Guinea or support anti-Touré factions. Foccart's actions in Guinea showed how France used covert influence and economic warfare to maintain its dominance in post-colonial Africa, even at the cost of long-term instability. Foccart's tactics became a model for future French covert ops in Africa. 1960 Guinea, 2025 IUIC.
There's much violence in the city of France.
Paris, supposed to be the city of love, is exploding again into hateful confrontation. Riot police versus angry youths, many under the age of 18. There's talk the French government may be forced to call a state of emergency.
C'est la responsabilité des parents.
In the meantime, France's president today urged parents to keep youngsters at home, while he sent more police onto the streets. But those youngsters aren't listening. Last night, the violence spread to flashpoints across the country. Town halls, schools, public buildings seen to represent the state of France have all been targeted. There was looting too in central Paris. In the Mediterranean city of Marseille, the state library was attacked. The UK and the US have now issued travel advice for their citizens visiting France.
Les choses sont beaucoup plus profondes.
They're right to be cautious, independent journalist Shaheen told me. He grew up in the Paris suburbs, documenting what he says is daily police aggression. He predicts the riots will only grow this weekend. Anger is at boiling point, he insists. With the country on a knife edge, French politics is at its most poisonous.
Face à des hordes prises d'une rage destructrice.
With opposition leaders here on the far right, but also on the far left, trying to score points. But in the suburb where Nahel, the 17-year-old French boy of Algerian-Moroccan descent, was shot this week by a French policeman, we found people sympathetic with the rioters.
No one listens to people like us, like them otherwise. I'm against violence, but these youngsters want their voices heard.
And it's also, Your Honor, we're going to address the spirit of hatred the oppressor just talked about earlier. We're going to have evidence as well to prove to the whole court today the French is the most violent nation in this planet Earth. We're going to see that in France. Then even though abroad, you're going to see how violent the French people really are. Even our people in France, in the city of France, just think about it for a minute. Why would their friends feel so upset to get us, IUIC, remove us in the street of France? Why? Because guess what, Your Honor? Our forefathers prophesied these things, which we're going to bring scriptures to back us up as well.
People of the court, the French say IUIC teaches hate. So when we teach brothers, stop killing one another, they call it hate. When we teach sisters, stop aborting the prophets, they call it hate. Wow. When we teach, we are special people unto the Lord thy God, they call it hate.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
They want us to kill each other. They want us to hate ourselves. They want our mothers to kill their children. So who really hates our people? IUIC or the French government? You be the judge.
The solution is not to take Africans and move them to Europe. The solution is to free Africa from certain Europeans who exploit it and allow these people to live off what they have. This is called the CFA franc, a colonial currency that France prints for 14 African nations, and by virtue of which it exploits the resources of this nation. This is a child working in a gold mine in Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso is one of the poorest nations in the world. For Burkina Faso, which has gold, France prints colonial currency. In return, it demands that 50% of everything Burkina Faso exports ends up in the coffers of the French treasury. The gold that this child crawls into a tunnel to extract mostly ends up in the coffers of the French state.
Who is robbing our people in Africa abroad? Take money, take our money, and sell it back to us with interest.
After the Second World War, the French knew that independence in Africa was inevitable. But France couldn't just let its cash cow free. So in 1958, France introduced a proposal to the African countries to become independent on French terms. And by the French terms, it meant independence without full sovereignty, independence on the condition of signing cooperation agreements. By trapping the African countries in the net of its cooperation agreement, France started choosing the leaders it preferred to be the heads of the states. And even today, most of the African leaders are the puppets of Paris, and those who try to resist are replaced. France has control over the strategic natural resources of the countries. It stationed troops in the region with the right of free passage. France even forced the countries to keep their currencies linked with the franc. The former colonies of France are bound to put 65% of their foreign currency reserves into the French treasury. Even if they need more money, they have to borrow their own money from France at commercial interest rates. That is not all, and there's much more to the evil side of France. Subscribe to know more.
The French shows much hatred to our people in Africa, in the Caribbean, and abroad. Wherever we go,
That's right.
they hate us.
That's right.
Your Honor, Your Honor, Your Honor.
Hold on. Not in my courtroom. Hold on. Hey, hold on. Let me address the love you're referring to. We shouldn't have no right to open the Bible and speak about no love. Right? John 3:16. Where was John 3:16 when you was hanging us? Where was John 3:16 when you was robbing us?
5 African countries still paying colonial tax. Number 1, Benin. Benin pays colonial tax to France as a legacy of its colonial past. This tax is meant to cover the cost of colonial era infrastructure and service. Number 2, Burkina Faso. As a member of the CFA franc system, Burkina Faso is required to send a significant portion of its reserves to the French central bank. Number 3, Côte d'Ivoire. Côte d'Ivoire is one of the strongest economies in West Africa, but it still pays colonial tax to France. Number 4, Guinea. Guinea was the first French colony to gain independence in 1958. Despite this, Guinea remains part of the CFA franc system and pays colonial tax to France. Number 5, Mali. Mali is one of the poorest countries in West Africa. Despite being part of the CFA franc system, the country pays colonial tax to France.
Where was John 3:16 when you was whipping us?
The French are a unique people. Unique in the sense that they claim that France is the mother of modern day revolution with the French Revolution in 18th century. Liberté, fraternité. That was France during the revolution, and that they exported this revolution to the world. Yet somehow, France is the worst of the colonizers from all objective assessments. Of course, Samora Moises Machel said it is wrong to categorize slave makers as one being better than the other. But permit me to say that they were the worst.
You don't have no right to quote John 3:16. Then you claim about Galatians 3:28. That's what you mentioned too, right? All of a sudden now, Galatians 2:28 means something to you? You the most violent man in this planet Earth. Galatians 3:28 don't mean nothing to you, but it means something to our people. It's time to teach our people we repented in France. Why are you so upset and mad at us while we're in the street of France teaching repentance to our people? Our people need to change their mindset, how to live. In France, you have all type of drugs, all type of gangs happening in France. You got the nerve to come in the courtroom and speak about love. Your Honor, we got enough evidence to destroy France today.
People of the court, the French say IUIC don't know about love. But I pose this question to you. Does the French government know about love to the children of Israel? Did France show love to Toussaint? No. Did France show love to Dessalines? No. Did France show love to Mali?
The hidden truth about France's gold reserves and Mali's gold wealth. France holds one of the largest gold reserves in the world. 2,436 tons of gold. But here's the shocking part. France doesn't have a single gold mine. So where does all this gold come from? Now, let's turn our attention to Mali, a West African country with 160 gold mines, producing nearly 50 tons of gold every year. Yet, despite being one of the top gold producers in Africa, Mali has 0 gold reserves in its banks. This raises an important question. How can a country so rich in gold have none of it stored in its own financial system? The colonial legacy of Mali's gold. For decades, Mali was under the French occupation. And even after gaining independence in 1960, its gold wealth has continuously flowed out of the country. France's financial policies, banking systems, and corporate influence over mining operations ensure that Mali's gold primarily benefits France's economy, rather than Mali's own people. Historically, France has maintained economic control over its former colonies through the franc, a currency that many West African nations, including Mali, use. This currency is more regulated by France, and a large portion of Mali's financial reserves must be held in French banks. This economic structure has allowed France to maintain an advantage over Mali and other African nations. Why doesn't Mali keep its own gold? Despite its rich gold mines, Mali's gold is mostly exported, often through multinational corporations, many of which are linked to European interests. The profits rarely stay in Mali, and the government lacks full control over its own natural resources. Meanwhile, France, with no gold mines of its own, has managed to build one of the largest gold reserves in the world. Much of this wealth can be traced back to Africa's resources, extracted over decades under colonial and post-colonial economic systems. The rise of a new era? But times are changing. African nations are waking up to the reality of resource exploitation. Many are starting to demand more control over their gold, oil, and other valuable natural resources. Countries like Mali are now renegotiating mining contracts and looking for ways to increase their share of the profits. Could this be the beginning of economic freedom for Africa? Will Mali and other gold-rich nations finally break free from the economic grip of former colonial powers?
Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso was formerly colonized by France and has an abundance of gold in natural resources. Traoré pushed out Western influence, including the mine owners, who are French mine owners in Burkina Faso. France wanted to reestablish relations with Burkina Faso, and if you've seen Macron giving a pretty ridiculous speech trying to say one day they'll thank us for helping them, no, they just wanted you to leave them alone. Anyway, Traoré said that in order to reestablish relations with France, that France is going to have to return all of the gold that they have stolen from Burkina Faso's mines, and all of this gold that they have is sitting in reserves in France. France is trying to say that that gold is theirs. It comes from mines in France. There are no gold mines in France. So now the US is getting involved. And we can all guess what those claims are going to be. Now we're seeing the claim, oh, he's stealing all the gold for himself and he's not helping his people. Next, they're going to be like, we need to bring democracy to Burkina Faso, like those typical things that the US says in order to manufacture consent for invasion and ultimately backing a coup, which I'm sure they have already tried. Them, France, and anybody else who benefits from the gold exploitation of African nations, which includes those fake Muslim countries like the UAE. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for saying that. But there's a reason why a lot of these nations are not coming to the aid of Palestinians and are also thriving off of the exploitation of natural resources from nations in Africa. Anyway, I'm hoping this gets picked up by American TikTok, but we'll see. And as we go along, you're probably going to hear a lot of comparisons of Thomas Sankara to Ibrahim Traoré. Sankara was a leader almost exactly like Traoré. Around 1970s in Burkina Faso, I have one of his speeches pinned on my profile. I'm going to make a part 2 sharing what I know about Sankara because I understand this is 2 minutes and that might be a little bit too long for people's attention span.
Okay, what about Haiti?
It was 200 years ago today. France's King, Charles X, formally recognizing the independence of Haiti, independence from France that had been earned in a bloody war of independence 2 decades earlier. In exchange, though, Port-au-Prince's new authorities agreeing to crippling compensation. There are varying numbers, but it's an estimated 30 billion euros in today's money, say some economists. Well, the French president for this 200th anniversary, recognizing the injustice of that compensation and naming a joint commission of historians to evaluate the price of freedom. He stopped shy for now, Emmanuel Macron, of talking about reparations. Caroline Baum has more.
On April 17, 1825, France recognized Haitian independence in exchange for 150 million gold francs, a huge sum at the time, in what it called compensation for former colonists. It immediately plunged the newly independent nation into suffocating debt. 200 years later, Haiti is one of the most dangerous countries in the world, where people regularly fall victim to looting and attacks in an ongoing gang war. Frustrated Haitians took to the street Wednesday in Port-au-Prince, a city 85% controlled by gangs.
Haitian people want to see development. We've been waiting for it for a long time.
What the hell going on here?
Hey, I asked this only question. Where's the love?
Honor. These men. No.
Oh! Then I also want to address to the court today. What after the evidence, Your Honor? That there's going to be some serious things going in France. God going to judge France for the wickedness he had done.
Justice and judgment. That's all our people seek for. But when you go to France, what do our people get? Injustice and persecution. Our people in France, they riot, they protest, but what do they get? Nothing. When are we going to get justice? When Christ, the Black Messiah, judges France.
That's right.
Today, millions across Spain, Portugal, and southern France were plunged into darkness. Around 12:30 p.m., a massive, unexpected blackout hit, shutting down trains, planes, traffic lights, even mobile networks. Some say it was a rare atmospheric phenomenon causing high-voltage lines to fail. Others blame a possible fire in France. Officials ruled out cyber attacks, but investigations are still ongoing. Power crews are racing to black start the grid, a slow, step-by-step recovery that could take days. Some areas are starting to light up again. But full power? It could take a week. Crazy, right? What do you think caused the blackout?
The God of Jacob will judge France for what they have done to the prophet. Our forefathers told us this would happen, that the Lord of heaven will send plagues like hail on the enemy.
Yeah,
Like he wrote in Sirach 39:29.
that's right.
All praise to the Most High.
We're going to bring a lot of scriptures yet to back up what's going on in France today. why we have to win evidence against the French, why the Lord need to judge France speedily, quickly.
France, May 2025. A wave of catastrophic storms unleashes massive hailstones and deadly floods. This is the story of nature's fury in Benque, Lautrec, Tonins, La Lavandou, and Vidauban. On May 19th, supercell storms battered southwestern France. In Benque, Haute-Garonne, hailstones up to 7 centimeters smashed cars, homes, and crops. Just east, in Lautrec near Toulouse, violent hail and torrential rains turned streets into rivers. A retirement home flooded, forcing evacuations. Farmers watched helplessly as harvests were obliterated. That same day, Tonins, in Lot-et-Garonne, faced a deluge. A TGV train carrying over 500 passengers was stranded when tracks collapsed under floodwaters. Miraculously, no one was hurt. On May 20th, the Var region became a war zone. In La Lavandou, 255 millimeters of rain fell in just 1 hour, triggering catastrophic flash floods. An elderly couple was swept away in their car, losing their lives. Roads and bridges collapsed, leaving the town without power or water. In nearby Vidauban, 186 millimeters of rain claimed another life when a woman drowned in her vehicle. The devastation was unimaginable. These storms left at least 3 dead, countless missing, and millions in damages.
Your Honor, oui. These men, they do not teach the Bible, they teach hatred. They teach all things contrary to that we know from the Catholic Church.
Well, a culture of silence with complete, even cruel indifference. That's how an explosive new report is describing the response by the French Catholic Church to 7 decades of sexual abuse. The results of the investigation found more than 200,000 minors were sexually exploited by French Catholic clergy since 1950. That number jumps to 330,000 when you add non-clergy members. And the head of the commission that issued the report says that abuse is still happening.
These numbers of 216,000 and 330,000 are far more than concerning. They're appalling and must absolutely not remain unanswered. They require very strong action.
Well, the report reveals the scale of abuse in France is far more severe than previously thought. CNN's Jim Bitterman is following the story and joins us now from Paris. So, Jim, not only did the report find that it's far more pervasive, far more systematic than previously thought, it also found that the church hierarchy repeatedly silenced the victims.
That's one of the things I think, Linda, that most people were, at least seemed to be the most appalled about, was the overall indifference of the church hierarchy to something that went on for years and may still be going on today, according to the commission's report. So it is really something that they haven't acted sooner on this. Probably the most dramatic moment in this press conference came this morning from Francois Deveau, who's the head of the Victims Association, and in a very firm way, he said, spacing out his words very carefully, he said, "You must pay for these crimes."
Yeah, you know what the French is afraid about, Your Honor? It's Acts 17, verse 6. All our forefathers, when there was in every street and teaching this gospel, guess what? They turned everywhere they had upside down. What is it? Because the French is very corrupt in France. Everything that French touch is dirt, corrupt, wickedness. rob, steal throughout the Americas, throughout the Africas, throughout the islands. France known for a violent nation on this earth. Then which, if this prophet's teaching that, then I'm going to also refer to Jeremiah. Jeremiah prophesied of there too as well. Jeremiah 28 verse 8. That's what the French is afraid of. Us teaching how corrupt they are.
Imagine being identified as a criminal and facing the threat of 3 years in prison or a $50,000 fine simply for teaching the Bible. Well, that's what Pascal Legles, the director of public liberty in France, just did to IUIC. Director of public liberty, Pascal? But we cannot teach the Bible at liberty? This hypocrisy has always been shown in France. Let me show you how. The loi Taubira refers to two distinct French laws, both named after Christine Taubira, a French politician. The 2001 law recognized the transatlantic and Indian Ocean slave trades as crimes against humanity. The French were the third leading country in the transport of slaves, but yet they want to judge us for reading and keeping the Bible and can't even judge themselves based upon the laws they created. For the hypocritical persecution of France against the prophets of IUIC, God says in Romans 12:19, vengeance is mine. So we pray and ask all you true believers to pray for the destruction of France and the decay of their government.
You're honored. They teach things I've never heard before. These things, I don't know what's needed, but they're not good.
Yeah, Your Honor, you're going to find out this morning, you're going to find out what's going on with the French. They don't have no proof of anything. As for us in IUIC, we got evidence. Ask the French, do we have evidence? Mr. Bruno, do you have any evidence this morning of any videos of these men called violence in France? Or have any type of hatred speech? Do you have any video to prove that? Do you have evidence?
I forgot the evidence today, but we've researched them. They only teach hatred. There's a terrible group, Your Honor.
Yeah, Your Honor. Are you paying attention to what's going on here? The French don't have no evidence, but he got the right to stand here today and open his mouth with no evidence. But us, we have all evidence. Then we have brothers that search out these things for us. Then things that we do in every street and every country and every island, we have evidence the work we do throughout the earth.
Sa tête et ses cheveux étaient comme de la laine blanche. Regardez vos cheveux. Regardez son cheveu. Regardez sa papille. Regardez. Regardez vos cheveux. Comme de la laine pure. Lit. Comme de la neige. Ses yeux étaient comme une flamme de feu. Ses yeux, les yeux de Jésus-Christ, est rouge comme une flamme de feu. Est-ce que ce monsieur-là ont les yeux rouges? Oui ou non? Non, les blancs ont les yeux verts. Est-ce que ce monsieur-là ont les yeux rouges? Regardez mes yeux. Regardez vos yeux. Vous avez les yeux rouges comme une flamme de feu. Lis. Ses pieds étaient semblables à de l'airain ardent. Madame, regardez vos pieds. Est-ce que vos pieds ne ressemblent pas avec vos coups et vos figures? Oui ou non? La même couleur, pas vrai? La même couleur, oui ou non? Est-ce que, madame, est-ce que vos pieds ne ressemblent pas avec vos coups et vos figures, vos visages? Oui ou non?
But the French and his side don't have no evidence, Your Honor. How are you going to let this hypocrite stand in front of you today?
Your Honor, these men, they go places and all they do is they yell and scream.
Deutéronome, chapitre 22, verset 5. Une femme ne portera point un habillement d'homme. Reste ici. Tu es une femme, pas vrai? Ok, lis. Une femme ne portera point un habillement d'homme, et un homme ne mettra point des vêtements de femme. Ok, restez là, ma soeur. Ça parle de quoi? Oui. Ok, lis encore. Faites attention. Vous y êtes? Ok, bien. Allez, viens ici. Tu es trop loin. Tu es trop loin. Viens ici. Tu es trop loin. Le livre de Deutéronome, chapitre 22, verset 5. Une femme ne portera point un habillement d'homme, et un homme ne mettra point des vêtements de femme. Ok, ça parle de quoi? La femme. Ah, mon vieux, allez ici. Allez ici.
Non, je reste ça. Je veux écouter les paroles de Dieu.
Ok, mais c'est bien. Il faut taisser. Taisez-vous. Oui.
On porte la robe tous les jours.
Absolument, mais c'est bien. Allez, donnez.
That's enough. They're causing confusion in our neighborhoods.
Then, Your Honor, you notice is referring these men. Why we cannot just be men? Those are all words or code of words of racists. The French known for being racist. Check the history of the French. Look what they did in Africa for perfect example. If you want to look towards the hatred towards the African, our people in Africa, if you want to look at those violence in Africa.
The summer of 2020 on the streets of Paris. There was an anti-racist uprising in France. The death of George Floyd had sent shockwaves around the world. For Asaph Traoré, it was a reminder of the police brutality closer to home. She'd been fighting for the truth surrounding the death of her brother, Adama Traoré. He had died in police custody on July 19, 2016, aged 24.
Ils sont morts exactement de la même façon.
Today's French anti-racism movement is part of the decades-long post-colonial struggles of Black and Arab people in France. Many see the authorities' prevailing supremacist attitudes rooted in France's view of the people it colonized. It's why there are growing calls for France to recognize and apologize for its violent colonization of millions of people in Africa and Asia. But for the French elite, these conversations on privilege, colonialism, Islamophobia, and racism are a threat to the very core of their identity. Many blame it on the out-of-control woke leftism of American campuses. And they're pushing back.
Whereas in France, it's really this denial of even the need of having the conversation around race, because the idea, the philosophy is that the Republic, with its, this valeur, liberté, égalité, fraternité, already took care of this problem for us. We don't have to open what is called this, Pandora box.
France likes to see itself as colorblind. Official statistics on race and religion, illegal. At the same time, we see systemic racism when French police stop Black people and Arabs 20 times more often than white people.
It's this post-colonial melancholia that is gripping France, this feeling of loss that is accompanied by an inability to come to terms with the country's history, and as such to accept the present that was born out of that history.
Then they got the nerve to talk about love. There is no love in France. The white man, there is no love in the damn devil, Your Honor.
Your Honor, Paris is the city of love. How can these men say we don't have love? We're the love capital of the world, Your Honor.
Yeah, Paris is the city of violence. Paris is the city of drugs. Paris is the city of abortion. Paris is the city of wickedness. Paris is the city of lying and stealing. The whole Mark 7:21 is active in Paris. That's why in Paris they need IUIC to teach our people repentance. With that, Judge, I rest my case.